Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. Thank you for joining us. We're going to run our intro and we will be right back. All right, ladies, we are back. Thank you for joining me tonight. Of course, we have the wonderful Tangela Terrell
Good evening.
and we have Katrina Taylor.
Hey.
And last but certainly not least, we have Shanetta McNair.
Hi.
All right, guys, and tonight this topic was thought of, came up by the wonderful Shanetta. So she is going to start off our conversation for the night, and then we're all going to jump right in.
My question that I wanted to chat about and for us to kind of just have some conversations regarding is the next generation, our legacy, our money, and how we're planning for what happens and how we're planning for the future for our children, for in general, the things that we do. So, like, do we have wills in place? Do we have life insurance in place? Do we have a savings? Or is it going to be a cookout, fund me, and a fish to pay for our services if and when something happens to us? Like, what do we have in place as adults? Because I think once you become a certain age, you should start having um, things prepared for life. So just those opening up those discussions about what we have prepared for what we leave behind and what our legacy.
Okay. And so yes, when you asked that question, I tried to frame it into like one general question, something that could be easily
Mm-hmm.
seen. So we came up with like you said, what are we leaving our or the next generation? So in terms of, our personal lives and our homes and our family, as well as, if God forbid you were gone
Mm-hmm.
tonight, if you never saw tomorrow, would your community be affected with you being gone?
Mm-hmm.
Or how, what have you left for the community in terms of traditions or even reputation, even something, as small as that. So it was something that I definitely thought was a great discussion to have. I'm sure all of us so many times have seen in the community when somebody died, the family got up. Well, now they have the GoFund pages,
Right.
um, and it's help me bury them, or this one needs help burying this one. So we've all seen it that unfortunately people don't always prepare um, for the future. And hopefully, after a year of COVID, and maybe people have realized how suddenly things can truly happen. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
literally went from one day being able to go outside to the very next day, literally not being able to do something as simple as go outside.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, in that year, people have learned the value of preparation.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about it. So you ladies, feel free. You can share your personal preparation for your life. Trina, I'm gonna ask you first, because I know your situation is slightly different, from ours, and you are a single mom with two growing kids. So what things have you done in preparation, for their tomorrows or your tomorrow?
Well, I'll start by saying that when my husband passed away, we did have life insurance, and thank God for that. Because it was definitely something that we had talked about. Certainly not thinking that anything would happen, but this is a smart thing to do. Let's be responsible. Let's make sure we have life insurance. We're up in coming young people, and we're married. We need to do things right, so we'll have life insurance. Not at all thinking that it would be something that we needed, but thank God that it was in place. Um, but then thereafter, I made sure that I had um, like additional policies, because when I spoke to um, the representative, the life insurance representative, some of the questions that he posed was, okay, you're a single mom, and what would happen um, if now your children have no one, or no parents. So that factored into how much life insurance I needed. And so I needed a lot more than when it was the two of us. So I had to get a lot more life insurance. At least I thought that's what I needed. um so definitely have life insurance. That's important. um as far as like a will, that's important to have. But there are also other ways to, go about if something were to happen to you. So, say for example, if you own a home, you may or may not want to put it in a will, only because now it has to pass through probate, which is a whole court proceeding and all that stuff, and you have to step in a state where an option would be for you to, like I have children that are, well, my daughter is old enough. I could just put her on the deed, and it wouldn't have to pass through probate. It would go directly to her.
Mm, okay.
That's
So
good information.
so that would be a way to kind of go around going through probate. So along with life insurance and putting her on the will, I mean, I'm not on the will, putting the house in her name, adding her name to the house, then it goes directly to her without having to go through the whole setting up an estate and going through probate. So I mean, there's different ways for you to um, make sure your children are set up, and as far as trust and all that other type of thing. And it's important for us to speak to the professionals in that area, because I'm not a, that was not my area of law. I didn't practice in that area, but definitely to talk to people who are professionals, who can tell you based on your specific situation, the age of your children, um, where we need to go. You know what I'm saying? There's different options.
Hmm.
So definitely, I think it's so important to speak to experts in each area to see, what we need to do.
Okay, Tangela.
Yeah, I'm not very well versed in this area. Um, I have done, we do have life insurance for ourselves and for the kids. We still have some other things, to get in place. But I think it is important to provide that security for my family. And I think, although it's kind of morbid to think about, but I kind of look at it as making sure they're okay. You know, um, well, once we're gone, that they won't have an extra burden of trying to uh, pay for things, or extra undue burden placed on them. Um, and thankfully I haven't had to go through that experience with a loved one, so I'm not that familiar with how that process works. I'm kind of like Trina, it's the responsible thing to do, get you some insurance. um
Mm.
so that's a decision that we made, to make sure that at least the bare minimum is covered.
Okay. Shanetta?
For me, it was a few years back where we started having the conversations about will, and we just kind of finally decided to go ahead and do it because it was offered through. I had legal insurance or had legal insurance at that time through my employer, so it was a free service that was offered. So we were like, okay, let's do it. And when I tell you, when you said, Angela, that it was kind of morbid to think about it, we were going through the process and filling out the questions and the answers and like trying to do all the documentation. And I literally sat in the bathroom and just, like, I cried like
Yeah.
boohoo cried because it was like the hardest thing to think about, but I knew we were doing the right thing because
Right,
I knew I didn't want just anybody to take care of my kids. I knew I didn't want just any, like, there were certain things that I really felt like were important to me that I wanted it in writing so that it wouldn't be a huge thing. And not that, it would be a fight, but I wanted to make sure at least what I desire is in writing and that somebody can read it and say, well, this is what she said she wanted. This is what they said they wanted. And we thought about the process of if it's just one or the other, if something happens with both of us together, um, just going through all of those thoughts, it was super hard. But
Yeah.
um, we did it once and then we had to revise it. And now because the baby just turned 18, I'm like, ooh, I think we should revise it again because he doesn't need a guardian now. So like update it, because we don't have to specifically name and we redid it because the first guardian that we named, she passed away. Well, the wife passed away and we wanted to update. So we update, that's why we did it the second time. And then now he's 18, so we're ready to do another one. But one of my main thoughts was I want to have enough insurance to where they could pay off the house, and it's their house. I never thought about the idea about having the kids' names on the deed to the house. I just kind of always thought, you put it in the will, here's the insurance, have enough insurance available for them to be able to take care of the arrangement and take care of the house. And that's always been my goal with insurance is have enough insurance for either one of us where the house is taken care of because that's the major bill that the other person left no longer has. If the house can be paid for, you just have property taxes and, maintaining the home. Um, so that's been a really big deal for me. And then recently, somebody asked me, they said, well, do you have life insurance? And I was like, yeah, we have life insurance, feeling all adultish and, like we got some stuff together. And they were like, is it through your job? And I said, yes.
Right.
And they were like, oh, you need another policy that's not through your job. And I was like, oh, okay. So even that process, and we have a couple of policies, but it's not enough. And I'm like, I know that it's something that we just don't talk about a whole lot. As people, we just kind of, I don't know if we think we're going to live forever, so we don't need to have life insurance or kind of like what the thought process is. But we have to plan so that our kids are not looking at people or whoever, is not looking around like, so how are we going to pay for this? What are our options? Do we have to figure out? Because back in a couple of years ago, they used to say, oh, cremation was, the cheaper option, but that's not so cheap anymore. Um, so even paying for final arrangement becomes quite expensive. So you want to make sure something is in place, even if it's just safe. But something needs to be in place, I think, for for your kids, for your family, and whoever's going to be left responsible, so that they don't have that extra burden of the financial.
So Shanetta, you made a comment. You said that you don't think you have enough. So how much insurance should or would you all recommend that someone gets? I know it would depend, on your assets, your family, if you have children and things like that. So what is a general rule of thumb when purchasing life insurance?
For me, I just want to make sure that there's enough to pay for our arrangement, to pay off the house, whatever the balance is on our home at that time. I want to make sure the house is completely paid off But one of my goals for the next 15 years, God willing, is to actually just pay off the house before the mortgage deadline. But I want it to be enough to where our house is paid off, our arrangements can be taken care of if something happens to both of us together, and the kids have something left, where they can be okay for a little while. But the rule of thumb, I think, even when we're planning for like retirement, you want to have a savings of at least 6 months of income. So um, at least I have some time to get myself together before I have to go back. Like, you got a week, you need to go back to work because you got bills to pay. I need time. Like, I really want to have my time that I need to be able to process whatever has just happened in my life. And I want my kids to be able to have time to process whatever is happening in their life in that moment. I feel like they need at least 6 months worth of income in case they decide I can't go back to work after a month or 2 weeks or a week. I want them to be able to say, I can mourn properly. I can get through this. I can go get the help that I need without having to worry about, well, how I'm going to live.
Um, Shannon, I think.
Also,
Oh, go ahead.
Tangela, to your question, um, there's so many things that have to be considered. That's why I was saying you got to speak with an expert because they'll come up with stuff. Of what about this? What about that? Things you haven't thought about. Also, when it comes to, like, I know your children are young, so that would had you would have to consider that as well. Like how many years, from their age that you would need to think about providing for them. As bad as that sounds, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so, like, again, if you sit down with someone and they'll be asking you questions, you'll be like, I never thought about that. That's true. I need to think about that too. So,
Hmm.
as far as a rule of thumb, I think it really depends on your situation, your other assets, and again, the age of your children as well. Yep.
Shannon, I was thinking, when you said about having life insurance through your job, like, Anthony had been on his job for so long, and that's where everything was life insurance, health
Hmm.
insurance, all of that. And then when he left his job, and I was like, hey, yeah, like we don't have, we don't have anything, and it was for a minute, it was almost kind of like, one of those moments where you really realize, like you have to have these things, in place for yourself.
Right.
Right.
And that alone, can be a task. And I don't think people always think about that because you have
Hmm.
those benefits when you're working. And then what happens when you no longer work there,
Right.
or whatever, what happens then. And I don't think people, really ask that question, Trina, like you said, sitting down with an expert, somebody that can lead you down the right path of, what's right for you and your family. Because I feel like from person to person, it's all going to vary. What you
Hmm.
need, what will work, what won't work, all of those things come into play. So I definitely agree with the whole sitting down, with somebody that knows the ins and outs, um, of of everything. Right. Like Anthony said, we become very dependent on our jobs. And
Mm.
we do
Yeah.
not even thinking about that's actually what we've done.
Hmm.
Like we really don't think about it. But we are very dependent on the jobs. So I saw this question in I think it was the marriage group that I'm a part of, one of the marriage groups on Facebook or whatever. I saw this lady, she posted a question. And so I want to ask you ladies and see what's your take on it. So she posted saying that her husband, he has life insurance and all that stuff through his job.
Hmm.
And she was saying he has it so 25% of it goes to her. And then, hold on, I thought I screenshot it. Maybe I didn't. Okay, so 25% of the life insurance goes to her, and then the rest of it is split up between their children or the children. I don't know if they share these children. She didn't say that. And she was saying she had a major problem with him doing that.
Mhm.
In the post, she also stated that she asked him what was his reasoning for, leaving her 25% and, splitting the rest up between the kids. And his reasoning was when his dad died, his dad just left everything to the mother and didn't leave anything to the children. And because he didn't like the way that made him feel, he wanted to make sure his children didn't feel like that if something happened to him. So I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you ladies, what do you think? Do you think everything should be left to the spouse, or should the person be able to split up the funds as they choose?
I think it
I'll wait.
depends on the. I think it depends on the individuals. Maybe has the wife demonstrated something that made him feel like, okay, she's not gonna do right by my kids if I'm gone. I'm and I see what he's saying, but where's that trust factor that she wouldn't take care of the kids? So I'm like you, Sam. Maybe they didn't share those kids together. Like, both of them aren't the biological parents. But I know that um, I don't know. I think it just depends on the circumstances of the relationship.
Okay. Trina?
Um, I'll go ahead and weigh in on this one. Um, my husband had two policies. And how that came about was the original policy he had through his job, and that policy was um, how was it split up? He had his mom, my stepson, and me named beneficiaries on that policy. After we got married, we got a separate policy that was just to me. Um, and that would take care of my now I had one baby and one on the way. Um, but let me tell you, it was such a good thing in hindsight because then there was no issues with anybody looking for whatever was left to me for me to, you know, dole out or whatever, or what, what you got your portion. And I'm only saying that, well, let me just, okay, I'm not gonna go down that road. Um, because it was an issue only on one front. So whoever's watching or not watching, you wasn't the issue, and we'll just leave that. But what I'm saying is, I was thankful that it was set up that way because it took pressure off me. In that moment, I was just like, because I know it would have been like, well, people.
Mhm.
So it was such a blessing that it was set up that way because I guess mostly because there was um, just situations before our marriage, and then
Right.
he took care of that, and I was thankful and grateful that that was taken care of that way. So
Shanetta, you want to weigh in?
For me, when we did everything, we both have beneficiaries to the other person at 100%. That's how we have it set up. But we've had the discussion that should something happen to him, it's his responsibility or my responsibility to make sure all the kids are taken care of. Now, I heard Trina mention a mom in the policy, and we have not even ever, I guess, considered our parents in thinking about it. We just considered our kids and making sure that the remaining spouse is responsible for making sure each kid is taken care of. And when I say taken care of, they're all grown now, So ideally, I guess for me, my plan would be to say, okay, we're paying off the house is paid off, um, and let's split between me and the kids. We'll split whatever is left over after major things are taken care of that can remove burdens from me. Because at the same time, I also don't want to be a burden later on the kids by saying, well, hey, I haven't been able to return back to work. Can one of y'all pay the light bill? Can one of y'all, so we need to make sure that the spouse is taken care of. If something should happen to both of us, then it's split evenly, amongst all the kids. And yeah, that's kind of how we set it up. Do I know if that's the best idea or the best way? I have no
Right.
earthly idea. I don't want to find out.
Right.
But at the same time, like that's just the way we did it. We were like, okay, 100% to each other, and then the secondary on all of it in case that person but we go at the same time or something like that. The secondaries are all the children and everything is immediately. There is one policy that only allowed us to pick one secondary. And I literally told my daughter, this just happened a couple of months ago. And I told my daughter, I was like, you're the only girl, I pick you. And she was like, that was random. Why would you do that? And I was like, I honestly believe you would make sure that the boys are taken care of. And I'm just gonna put it on you just now at 19 years old. Bam, I'm sitting this in your lap. And she's like, Mom. And I was like, time to grow up, kid. Time to grow up. Like, you're gonna be the one responsible for doing everything. She was like, no way. So I don't even know which one of my kids would even be able to take care of stuff, honestly. Like, I need to write that stuff down too, because they're gonna be like, what? So,
So I mean, to Trina's point, I absolutely like, okay, so how we have it set up originally is, each other or whatever. But honestly, after seeing that post a couple of days ago, like I really, have been thinking about it. I mean, even being a wife, I think now the percentages sound like they a little off. I mean, how many kids y'all got? I don't know. The way she made it seem is like there was two kids. So to me, the percentages are definitely a little off. But I mean, I honestly wouldn't have a problem with him feeling like he needed to designate a specific percent to the children. Like that wouldn't, bother me. I think, I can, from what she put anyway, I can understand the husband's point. When somebody dies and like, so recently Anthony had a family member die. We got a copy of the will, and you going down, when you sit in for a reading of a will or when you get a copy of it, you go down a list. But Trina, I'm sure I don't know, but you go down the list and it's, we leave this to this person and this to this, and this is for this, and you got all these things. And I'm thinking, as a kid, right, if you, as a child of somebody, if you have to sit there and you listen to your parents that have had the forethought to take care of everything else, but it's like, okay, and then somebody else will take care of you. I'm gone, but somebody else will, take care of you. And don't get me wrong, I'm a mother, so of course, my children are going to be taken care of, regardless. But I think the sentiment of it, I thought like, wow, okay, that's cool. Like I said, the percentages probably definitely need to be adjusted, especially depending on the age of these children. But I think it was a nice gesture, just to think, well, 5% of whatever, goes to little Johnny and little Shasha, whatever, for me personally, I really like that. And like you said, Trina, um, who wants to have that responsibility? Now it's like I gotta stop trying to grieve because unfortunately, when people die, hands come out everywhere. It's really, really crazy. Like when people die, like the expectations that people, especially if your wife, that people put on you, because now everybody's looking, oh, you didn't spend enough money on this, and you didn't give this one, and you didn't do this, so when that stuff is all out in writing and all said and done, it removes the burden and the responsibility, of the spouse. I feel like that's that extra little care, that your husband is taking to remove one extra burden from you once he's gone. And I'll say husband because, we're all
Right.
female on the panel. But I think, it kind of goes both ways. And I just think, when, like you said, when everything is in writing, when it's all, this is what it is. See? Okay. Now, and you really can concentrate on the grieving process or the healing process, or, God forbid, figuring out, okay, now what is my life supposed to look like?
Right.
Because as of whatever happens, your whole life has changed. Who wants to then try to be figuring out how to give
Divide the money.
right? Like, because
Yeah.
in my mind, listen, he just gone, and now you asking me for something. Like, I'm gonna need a period of time when nobody asks me for nothing. I was like, you need that time to really, really, um, just kind of get yourself together. So I honestly thought it was a great post. I mean, she was very unhappy about her husband doing it, and she was like, "Oh, I deserve everything. It should all go to the spouse." Like, and of course there were several women in there that kind of had the same sentiment. Oh, well, you've been his wife. It should all go to you. And so
I
I
think
just
it's interesting that if they're in it, I guess the other part of it would be, are the kids adults? Are the kids not her
Right.
kids? That
Right.
all of those type of questions come into play for me, because it could be that, hey, there may be kind of a pressed relationship
Right.
between her and those kids, and he sees it and he knows it, so he wants to make sure provisions are in place for each of the kids. Or maybe that's what it was like for him. The relationship was pressed, and he wants to make sure that if anything happens, that everybody has been taken care of. I know of someone where the wife passed away, and her insurance policy was a nice amount, and it was only to the husband. And the kids were expecting, okay, after he takes care of some business, he's gonna, take care of it. And he didn't. He spent all that money. And I'm talking about like really fast too. And they were so disappointed and hurt because he didn't take care of them or see. And they were all adult children. So it was just kind of like, well, you'll be fine. Like, he has stuff to take care of. But unfortunately, he didn't take care of any stuff. He just blew all the money. So it was unfortunate, but um I think it happens. And when you can foresee that, you kind of have to make those put stuff in place so that you know that it's going to be taken care of. And it is one less thing to think about. I like that idea. Like, it has me like really sitting here like, I don't know, I need to rethink some things, because
listen. I'm telling you, I really have been like, wow, that's really, like, it does, it relieves an amount of stress. So my question, I have another question. So, okay, let's just use me. I'm 44. Like, should my mom be responsible to leave me money? Like, I'm a grown woman. So, is it really her responsibility to leave me money as a grown woman?
I think
Like,
it's her responsibility to leave something for you to plan for her, to
oh, well, no, no, no. I don't mean, no.
services at least.
Well, right. That part, I mean, no, she shouldn't leave me no bills either. Let's just,
Right.
I'm just saying, like, do adult parents, like, do you owe that to your children?
I think it depends on their age. Like,
Okay.
my daughter is 21, but she's not established. Like, I definitely have to make sure she's okay, because at this point she's still living under my roof. I'm paying the
Right.
bills and everything. She's going to school. She's done what she's supposed to do, but basically I'm taking care of her. Um, I think it's a nice thing to do, and if we can, if we're set up to where we can leave something to our adult children, bless you.
Thank you.
I think, I mean, I think it's something that we should strive to, leave a heritage or, an inheritance for our adult children. If that's something that we can do, that's something we should try to do if we have extra to do it. But I don't know that the adult child should be, you know, expecting,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, oh, my mother didn't leave me. Well, I mean, if she had it, or if the dad had it to leave, yeah, I mean, I think that's something we should strive to do, if we can.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, as far as like you were asking about a parent, like if you leave something, like me leaving something to my parent, um, in my situation it was important because, like you said, when you're grieving, you don't want extra burdens on you. So as much as you can clear the air and get everything, you know, get
Right.
everything spelled out, I think it's important to do that.
Okay, so we talked about, what we, as far as the financial goes, but what traditions do you have, like any family traditions that you've passed down, or that like do with your children? Like, for me, like Sunday, like, I don't know, maybe I watch too much TV or whatever. I'm sorry, my allergies are really like kicking in. Sorry, I'm like itchy, scratchy, all of that all at once. Um, the whole like Sunday dinners, like, that's big for my kids. Like, they know every Sunday. Like, even if you've ever been to my house, it's probably been on a Sunday because something about Sunday just makes me want to cook. Sunday is my cook day, like, so I try to do that with my kids. We always sit at the table on Sundays, together. Like, that's, one of the big things we do. Traditions, we try to definitely vacation together, like on a regular. That was huge for me because, like, I didn't have that growing up. Like, we didn't do a lot of that when I was coming up, vacationing or like traveling. Anthony did that with his family every year. They went somewhere else. So, like with the kids now, every vacation I try to go somewhere else, like a different city, a different state. I mean, um, until they've kind of, I want them to have been everywhere. Like,
Mhm.
even if it's just the 50 states, like that's one of my goals as a parent. Like, I want them to go, go everywhere and like even random places. Like, spring break is coming up. So I had Lexi searching out places, that's like 5 to 6 hours away. So, we're not driving far. She even looking in Kentucky. And she like things to do in Kentucky. And she was like, um, making notes and all of that. So like, that's another tradition that we do. Try to take the kids somewhere different.
Mhm.
Um, and then all the little life lessons you give them along the way. So what are some of the traditions that you guys have with your children?
So at Christmas this past year, my son kept asking me about recipes and putting them in a box. Like, he has this obsession with
Oh,
me putting recipes in a box. And I was like, no, I don't have the recipes in a box. And he was like, so how are we supposed to know when you're gone how to make all this stuff?
oh,
It's like, not going anywhere. But he was so like dead set on, mom, I'm gonna get you this box and you're gonna put all these recipes in a box and then you're gonna hide it in the cabinet and we're gonna find it. Something
he
is wrong.
watched too much TV too.
Yeah, that's cute.
I'm- But I don't even like, I have some stuff in my phone that like I keep,
Yeah.
but I literally had Christmas this year, I was making dressing that my mother-in-law taught me how to make and I forgot how to make it. And like I've been making it for all these years since I've been and I literally could not remember for the life of me. Like I sat in the kitchen Christmas Eve night, just like I don't know what to do right now. Like I'm gonna put all this stuff together, and it was a flop. But they ate it anyway. And then my husband was like, "You need to call my mom again and ask her how to make it again." And I was like, "You're right. I do. I messed up." And my son proved his point at that moment. He was like, "And this is why you should have all the recipes in a box." And I was like, "You're right. You're right. Maybe I'll do it." But our traditions have been surrounding around our holiday. They know that like the holidays are big for me, and I could be like just dog tired, but I'm gonna stay up and cook. Like, and I did it this year, and like it wasn't. I did too much, and I was just like, I don't even know why I cooked all this. Like, we're in the midst of pandemic, people aren't really coming over. It's just us and the kids. But I'm gonna cook all this food anyway, and I did it like a crazy person. But that's been my tradition with the kids is making sure that they have that holiday feel for that mealtime. But I don't know if we have anything else other than we go to church on Sunday.
Right. Don't forget that. Trina? Oh, well, Tenzin.
I'm learning, we're really starting some of our own traditions,
Right.
because we're still, I think I've been riding on my parents' coattail as far as, traditions and Christmas and all of, holidays and birthdays and things. So I think it's kind of cool that we're kind of starting our own traditions, but we're including the girls in the process and include them in the decision-making process.
Right.
So I think that's really, really neat. Of course, God is the focus and center of everything, and that's one thing that I would hope and pray that our girls will maintain their own personal relationship with God, and each other. I think that's important for me, for them to be close as sisters,
Right.
and not take that relationship for granted.
Okay. Trina?
Well, like you guys have said, definitely holiday traditions, um, travel. We always try to go somewhere.
Right.
Definitely do a vacation together each year. I actually just got my daughter her passport, so she's ready to be out as soon as this COVID goes away. Um, and like you were saying, Shanetta, I've been trying to get my mom's sweet potato pie recipe down. I love her sweet potato pie, but she can't give me a recipe. She like a little this, you add a little that
Yes,
to taste.
that's
What
my
does
mama.
it taste me? I don't know what it's supposed to taste like. What do you mean to
Yeah.
taste? Like I don't
Yeah.
know. So our solution is, and we were supposed to do it this year, but COVID is to have her make it and then have one of my kids videotape her make it. So then
Okay.
that way I can kind of maybe judge a little bit better by watching and kind of taking notes. Her
Mhm.
making the sweet potato pie, but I gotta have that recipe.
Yeah.
I got her stuffing recipe down. Now I don't know nothing about pinch or this or that, but
Right.
I got her stuffing recipe down, so I already got that. I can make it. Um, yeah, but one of our other traditions in my family is the call first on the
Yes,
birthday.
your birthday.
On the birthday. So it's who called first. My mother tries to win on every. I mean, she have happy birthday in her phone, and her finger over the send. As soon as that thing turned to 12:00, she'd be like, "Send, I was first. Say happy birthday." So now, like that's being passed on and on, and it's just like, well, who said it first? Who said happy
Right.
birthday to you first? So that's one of our birthday traditions.
Listen, I was just gonna tell you, Trina, you gotta tell them about the birthday tradition. I was definitely gonna tell you. Listen, when Lisa, she was so adamant on trying to be the first, but she told me that I laughed so hard. Like, I mean,
Wow,
they serious too about being the
it's
first
serious.
one
It's a
to wish
serious
the
thing in my
other one
family.
happy
Hmm.
birthday. Okay,
Our
so
birthday is not that fun, but we do whatever you want for dinner on your birthday.
oh
That's
yeah.
one of
Yeah.
our things that we've always done with the kids. Is it's your day, you get to pick whatever we're eating, and it ends up being pizza a lot. But yeah, we'll just like pizza. Like I'm like y'all are so weird. Like pick something else. One year we went and did like a fancy pizza because they kept saying like one of them kept saying pizza every year, and we were like, okay, we're not gonna do BB's, we're not gonna do Pizza Hut or Papa John's. We're gonna go downtown and go to like a whole Italian restaurant and get pizza.
Oh
So we did that one year.
wow, that's interesting. Okay, so yes, we definitely know, like I said, the financial things that we leave our children are great. I think the traditions, mean so much more. Like I remember as a kid when my grandmother was alive, for holidays, she used to make everybody dress up. Like this was before we even go to church. But like for Christmas, they got me in tights, shiny shoes,
Shiny
like
shoes.
right, the shiny shoes. Like what was
Hmm.
the patent leather? Them
And
shiny
leather.
ones. And like for Easter, like they used to dress me up on Easter. We wasn't even going to nobody's church because they didn't go to church. But I had to dress up on Easter, the holidays, like my grandmother used to do that a lot. And so then my mom, she got into the habit of, making us dress up and stuff for holidays. And, when I had kids, like in the beginning, like I used to make the kids dress up and do whatever. But it felt like every holiday, like I was struggling to get dressed. When you spending all day in the kitchen, the last thing you want to do is try to come out the kitchen, do all this and messing in hair, and I don't wear nobody's stockings, so that's a no starter. I'm putting on shoes and a dress, and it got to the point, where I could just never get dressed. Like I never made it into like dressy clothes. So I felt bad, making the kids get all dressed up. So I kind of stopped doing that. But when my mother was here the last Thanksgiving, we all got dressed up. 'Cause, when mom is in town, you gotta get in line and get it together. So we definitely did. But I will say a lot of the traditions, like the things we've done or the things that you do with your children, those kids, they carry that like for their whole lives. Even if they
Mhm.
don't ever do it, when that moment comes around, they're always gonna think, "Oh, my mom used to do this every Christmas."
Yeah.
Like little stuff like that. I think means so much to our children, and I think it's very important that we remember that. As much as we want to give them that's financial, it's equally, if not more so important to give them things that they can hold on to, that's not necessarily tangible,
Yeah.
things, because that's what makes our memories live on, in our heads for the people that we care about. So I have one more question. I guess it would be like maybe my final question. What time is it? Yes. So my final question. Last week we talked a little bit about the communities and what community you're a part of. Not necessarily. I mean, it could be your block, like, it doesn't have to be, it could be your ministry that you're a part of or whatever. So if and when you're gone, God forbid, I don't, not saying nobody's going anywhere, but would your community miss you? What would your community have to say about you? What void would be there if you weren't? Or would there be a void?
For me, I think honestly, I don't want there to be a void. I feel like there are people in our communities and even more so probably in our churches that we put them in positions and they stay in these positions until they die, and then
Mhm.
it's like, oh, now we have a void when we could have prepared for this and trained somebody else before they were 105 years old. We could have trained somebody to fill the position as opposed to letting them stay in it forever and ever. um I feel like um when we get to a certain place, we should be teaching other people how to do the things that we do so
Mhm.
that there doesn't have to be a community void or a ministry void or any of those things, that there should always be someone to carry the torch. There should always be someone to, not that people shouldn't miss you, not that people shouldn't say, oh, I remember she was really good at this and I just wish she was here to help me with that. Or, she was always a good listening ear. I wish, I could talk to her now. That I think, yes. But I think things that we do and things that we provide for the community, there should be somebody that's learning how to do what we're doing. There should be somebody to pick up, and to carry that torch on. We shouldn't be the only ones that know how to do what we do.
But listen,
I agree, Shanetta. I want you to miss me, but I wouldn't want there to be, people to be crippled, or an organization to be crippled um because of that. I hope, I even think about, my kids. I don't want them to be crippled, and I would have done everything for them, and they are, can't boil water. So, I think that is showing, value, adding value to your organization, your community, your family, to where, yes, they'll miss you, but what you taught them will last, well beyond your time here.
Mhm.
okay, Trina.
Um, I agree with what Shanetta and Tangela said, and I feel like my friendship, I think, would be most missed. You know, just as far as um, you know, I don't know. I'm not a real community person, but I think that my friends, I'm, I feel like I'm important to them. I'm important to them, and um, I feel like they can always depend on me, and so I feel like I would be missed by my friends and my family, of course.
Okay. Listen. Okay. So Anthony had a question, and before we answer, so he said, "Do you think teaching for secession is difficult?" Okay, but so I think secession is great, and believe me, I fully understand it. It doesn't matter how great I am at the morning announcements or counting the money in the money room. When you're gone, it will continue.
It
But
will.
I'm sorry, I need there to be a little bit of backup when I'm gone. I need it to slow down a little bit. I need to feel like whatever, call it, I don't care. I
I'm with you.
need I need there to be a little bit of slowdown. I get you. Y'all gonna get back on track. I'm not saying we gotta stop nothing. Y'all don't gotta cancel service, but I need there to be like, moment of silence or something. I need when I'm not there, I need there to be, like I want to feel like I bring so much that there's like when I'm gone, it's felt like
Right.
in my mind. I mean, it's great, for a succession. I mean, his question, do you think teaching for succession is difficult? I don't think teaching for it. A lot of people talk about it and they try to teach about succession, but oftentimes those are the same people that won't let go of the mic the whole time. They teaching for somebody, oh, got the Elijah anointing and you got to pick up the mantle and all this other stuff, but they the same people, that won't really let go of the mic themselves. So I don't think it's really hard teaching for it. I think getting people to accept and practice it is a whole different um, ball game. What do you say? Gap between us. I'm in my 50s, and the rules for the next generation are immensely different. That's true. I guess the rules. I don't know. I guess it just depends on what the next generation you're talking about. I mean, I get that, things change from year to year, or let's just say from decade to decade. Um, there is a big change, but I feel like there's something that even if all we left for the next generation was the ability to live your truth, you know what I'm saying? Or sisterhood, like, because that's what we're practicing. So even if we left that, that message for the next generation, I believe that's enough. Now, sisterhood may look different for them in the next generation, but the basic principle and the idea of it, I believe that that's definitely something that can be left for the next generation. How they choose to take it and apply it won't be the same. Let's be honest, in 10 years, Facebook won't look like this anymore, if there's even a Facebook. So, how people relate to each other will be different, but I still believe there's room to, to pass that along. They don't buy into our flow. We went to jobs we hated. Many religious folks are practicing. Well, I think, like I said, I believe, there's, regardless of the differences and all of the things that's happening, there's always something you can leave to those coming behind you.
Yeah, values are timeless.
Right.
How you treat people, though there are some just practices and truths that endures from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And then at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. We
Right.
all, we're all striving towards something. My something may not look like your something.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, the way I approach my something is is going to be very different. So he said, we don't give them a solid roadmap. They don't trust our movements. Honestly, I don't know that there is a solid roadmap because, again, my something is not yours. And how I choose to go after my something is not going to be the same way that you do because we're all different. So I don't really believe there's a solid roadmap. But like you said, Tangela, values, truth, and honesty. Even what I believe the truth is going to be very different, from what you think and how you move and how you approach things. Um, it's never going to make me stop sharing, what I feel I have to offer. I feel like, it's up to everybody. You take what applies to you, what doesn't, you leave it and you keep moving. It might be something that appeals to you and maybe something that don't. Everybody kind of has to walk this thing out. To be all honest, we're all walking it out. We're
Mhm.
all living one day at a time. And from person to person, it's always going to look different. That's just the reality of it. We're all made different. It's never going to be single file. Everybody going in the same direction, doing the same way thing, thinking the same way. That's never going to happen because we weren't created that way. To all be alike. So, ladies, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to quickly agree with Tangela when she said that values are something that you can always like that you can always pass that on, and that made me think of something that I the little kids that I teach every day, they're 2, 4, and 5, and um, I always tell them the golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated, and no matter what age you are, from 2 years old to 99, that goes across the board, and that's something. Those types of values you can teach, leave them to the next generation. Those are the things that will never change. Treat people how you want to be treated. You reap what you sow. There's certain things that no matter what, this is how, and you teach your children how to treat each other, how to treat other people, and that gets passed on generation to generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. I 100% agree with you. All those very dumb principles, those things are those things are timeless. I remember, you learn that in school, like, as a kid, you learn that, in Sunday school and stuff, growing up. He said, what is it? Even the rules in the streets have drastically changed. I'm sure, but that's not really my arena. So I can't, it's only so much that I know about the street. I mean, so much has changed. And to be honest, the world doesn't look like it looked back even when we were teenagers.
So
If
it
you
doesn't
think
look the way it looked a year ago.
well, that too. You're right. The world is forever changing. People are forever changing. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the unfavorable. Not gonna say the bad, but sometimes it's just unfavorable. The way that people change. Again, we're all only human, and we can only do what we can do. I would just say, put your best foot forward. If you feel like what you have is worth sharing, share it. You have a voice. There will be someone willing to listen. Give people your best and do, like Trina said, treat people like you want to be treated. That's my thing. That's what I strive for. To at the very least treat you like I want to be treated, and then we go from there. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Romello, it's always great to have you. So we'll be back next Tuesday at 8:30. Hopefully you will join us because we will be here. Until then, have a great night.